So, yes, sir, in the back.
What's your opinions of state nullification of federal law and the S word that would follow on when that's bad?
Right. The states still have a chance to assert what is their constitutional prerogative and autonomy and authority and so forth. And they're doing so. They're starting to kind of rattle the cage about the 10th Amendment versus the Commerce Clause and so forth, especially with made in Wyoming guns, made in Montana guns, made in Tennessee guns, and so forth, that as long as they stay in those states, they do not enter interstate commerce and therefore are not able to be regulated by the Fed. That's very encouraging, okay? That's a good place where a legal challenge could be made and perhaps successfully, and good. Because we're too weak and diffuse to take on the federal government alone. So, why not back a state government? And it may not be your perfect solution as a libertarian, getting behind government against another government because you're still supporting a state government. But, let's think of things in stages and get what we can, all right? And then from that other vantage point on the game board, we'll find something else. So I'm very encouraged about this. I'm sure that the whole Made in Wyoming or Montana Gun Firearms Act will go to federal court, different district courts, and I'm sure the Supreme Court will have to decide and rule, does it affect interstate commerce? I think they'll be loath to say that it does not, because probably 80% of federal regulation relies upon the outrageous stretching of what is interstate commerce, what affects interstate commerce. The fact you grow your own food, they say affects interstate commerce because you're no longer buying food that was in interstate commerce. So it's called the aggregate principle ruling. It was used first in the 30s, and they really expanded on it. And this is something that I allege Alexander Hamilton had in mind all along. Because 3 years after his Federalist paper, hey, it's just the state concerns, the feds do this, and they're limited, the states have the rest, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. 3 years later, in his report on the manufacturers, he said, what doesn't fall under, commerce? Everything within a state. So he had this in mind during the convention, and it took a while to activate it, but it certainly is now. I don't think the states will win in court, certainly not the Supreme Court, and then the ball's back to the states' court, so to speak. And it's like, how far do you want to take the no? So it'll be very interesting times. Yes?
What are the prospects of secession and things like that, especially if there's bankruptcy of the federal government?
Very strong, especially if you have some regional states, contiguous states, that have a strong economic and trading bloc, and they could be fairly self-sufficient as an economic unit. Yeah, I could see where you could have state secession. Secession has to be painted in the right way. It's got to have the right tone, okay? It can't come across as anti-American, we're breaking up the country. It's more like returning to the country that we used to have. And if it's painted that way, I think it has a chance in the minds of the people.